This is my newly modded new Nintendo 3DS XL, and that is a defect on the screen. I recently modded this so that it had a capture card so that I could capture footage from this new Nintendo 3DS XL because I am a YouTuber and sometimes I will maybe use that feature once or twice. But basically, when I installed the new screen, because this DS was completely toast, the shell was in a really horrible condition. This is two of the last pieces that I have of the DS. I'm actually going to stick these up on eBay. We're going to auction them off for charity. All of the money will go to charity. So yeah, check out the link in the description to check out that. But basically, yeah, the screen that I installed had a defect on it, but I have another screen here. Installing a replacement screen on the new 3DS XL is, without question, one of the most horrible jobs you could do. It's absolutely awful. I mean, you've got to get into this little part, which is just so tricky, and really, it is effectively a complete teardown. I mean, it is a complete teardown of this DS, and these DSs are notoriously difficult to take apart. I mean, most Nintendo 3DSs are difficult to take apart because the cables go through the hinge, but this one is extra awful. So we're gonna give it a go. There's a bunch of building works going on outside my house, so what I'm actually gonna do is stop recording on this camera, just record on this one, and then I'll just do a voiceover talking you through the process. So yeah. Oh yeah, I'll be using an iFixit kit for this because there's so many different things that we're going to need to pry and lift and jab and stick and poke and cry. Is there any tissues in here? Big thank you to iFixit for sponsoring this video. I've been using iFixit tools for many years now. I've used them on some of my biggest projects. One of my favorite things about iFixit is they sell all of the individual components of your toolkit on their website. So if something gets worn down or broken, you can just replace the individual part. You don't have to go out and buy a whole new toolkit. They offer a wide range of kits, so if you're just looking to repair the odd thing around the house, there's a kit for you. Or if you wanted to tackle far more in-depth teardowns and repairs, they have pro kits which have everything you can think of. As well as toolkits, they actually sell the parts to repair your devices, which also come with the necessary tools to do the repair. The joystick on the Nintendo Switch, for example, notoriously breaks over time and can be replaced for $18.99, or if you already have the tools, they sell just the components for less. For the next 72 hours, they're offering a 10% discount across all their stores if you use code ELLIOTFIX at checkout. Or if I see you in person, I'll give you a $5 towards one. Again, big thank you to iFixit for sponsoring this video. Check out the link in the description below. Okay, well, here we go. I really cannot believe that I'm doing this. It's just an excruciating process. I think the new Nintendo 3DS XL it's a really rewarding job to do because it is just so complicated that if you do put it all back together and it works, it's just unbelievably relieving and exciting in that way, but it's really not something that I want to be doing. It really is a very tricky and frustrating mod or repair to be doing. But yeah, I mean, I've done it quite a few times now, so I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to do it. It does make a big difference not having to film all of the different angles. Obviously in the main channel video that I do, there's just so many different angles. I try and make it as almost immersive as possible to show just how complicated these devices are. I know they're not actually that complicated compared to, I don't know, say the Apple Vision Pro, but this device is several years old now, and for Nintendo, it is a very complicated device. So we're removing the back. That is about the easiest part of this job, but even that is complicated because when you flip it up, you've got these two little ribbon cables for the shoulder buttons. Now, spoiler, I'm going to be ordering another case kit for this DS because I don't know if you saw, but those shoulder buttons were red. One of the issues I had with this shell kit that I ordered from AliExpress was that the shoulder buttons, the molding was just really poor. In fact, to be honest with you, the molding on the majority of this shell replacement was quite poor. I don't know if maybe because they're in quite low demand that it's just a random company that does them to a sort of subpar standard and no one's really, there's not enough orders to complain about it. But yeah, I'm going to order another kit and just use those shoulder buttons and a couple of other parts as well, which we'll get onto in a little bit. The one quite nice thing about this DS is the almost modular design of the inside. There's so many different individual parts, so you can just take your time removing all of the screws, set them aside in some way that keeps them separate because they're all different sizes. The inside of the iFixit toolkit actually has a really nice sort of segmented partitioned, I don't know, casing that you can put all your screws in, which is quite nice. You can just keep them all separate and whatnot. Here's another little iFixit tool which is quite handy. It's just got that like plastic sort of tip that you can just flip the connectors up with. You can see it there, and then on the other side there's a hook which can also be quite handy for lifting things around, but I'm also just going to use this one side. The new 3DS has these types of connectors on them that are almost spring loaded and don't actually require lifting a flap up. You'll see a few of those around the board, and it's really important to see. Here's one there. You see me just pulling it out with that hook I was talking about. You need to make sure that you don't attempt to lift that flap up, because if you do, it will bend up, and then trying to get it to bend back down again in such a way that it's going to apply pressure onto the tip of that connector is very difficult. It's not impossible, but it is very difficult. And then you'll notice that the connection is temperamental. And with this DS, when you put the whole thing back together, if one connector is not seated properly, you'll press the power button, it'll pop, and it'll just go off again. And that's how you know that a ribbon is not seated properly. So I've just removed all of the inside gubbins. We're now going to move on to this top portion of the DS. We have to remove these little rubber covers. This was the part that I was referring to earlier when I said I'm going to need to order another shell kit for some other parts. These little covers have an adhesive backing to them, and as I remove the rubber covers, the adhesive backing just kind of fell off, and that's just going to be a nightmare to try and sort out in a seamless way. I do have some adhesive double-sided tape stuff, but yeah, I mean, I need quite a few parts off of this anyway, and it will just be easier to replace them from the new kit. So sliding off the top shell portion is going to allow us to get inside. This is something that I just did not know about until I had one of these in my hands, and I was trying to take it apart and confused as to why it wouldn't come off. Yeah, it's a sort of a slide down action, but it's not that seamless. Lots of things get caught. This hinge you have to pop out by opening the DS and then sliding it up. You've got the very, very tip of that hinge made of metal for you to get a tweezer underneath. And then once it is out, you have to sort of bend that shell open to get the shell over the tip of that hinge. And then you have to, wiggle this set of ribbons out through a very small little slither in the case. And there's also that little metal shield for those ribbons, which holds the hinge on the other side. And we have to roll all of those ribbons through that metal cylinder, which you can see me doing there. Honestly, as I said, this is just such a tricky thing to do. And with all of these edits and cuts and stuff, it makes it look fairly simple. But a lot of this is just wrestling things around and just getting quite frustrated. Excuse the poor camera work here, but yeah, there's a bunch of ribbons connecting to the speaker from the screen, I guess for parts of the audio and the volume slider, or the 3D slider that might be actually. So yeah, that's probably what that is actually, the 3D slider and the sound. So you can flip all of that up. Again, this top piece, even this top piece is just so complicated. The order that the ribbons go is specific. You have to make sure that you've rolled them round in the correct order, and then you have to feed that little antenna wire through the center. It really is just horrid. I mean, if you can imagine giving this to someone who's never done any work on sort of tech devices before, halfway through the process, and you're like, yeah, so what you got to do is you got to roll all these ribbons up in a little bunch, push them through, pull everything out, try not to break anything, very gently suspend everything with the tips of your fingers, and if you drop something, that's going to put pressure on the ribbons, you might rip them. I mean, they would just be like, yeah, do you know what, throw it in the bin, I'll buy a new one. I mean, these things are just so unbelievably complicated. And yeah, I remember the first time I ever did a repair on one of these, and it was so nerve-wracking. Here's the new screen. I noticed that the part that sort of flaps over there in the shell to stop it from falling through was bent, which is not a good sign. And then when I put it up next to the other one, the quality of it was just awful. The shell, the casing around the screen wasn't closing properly. All those little bits were bent and you know, just misshapen. So not a good sign. And you've got no way of really testing this without putting the whole DS back together. So that was not fun. Kind of apprehensive to put it together, knowing that it already had maybe received some sort of an impact, was, yeah, disheartening, demotivating, whatever the words are to describe being slightly concerned. Here's me putting everything back in. The camera goes underneath that 3D and volume slider, and then the screen kind of ribbon goes in between the two down the center. That black ribbon is going around the outside. It's got almost a coating on it, which makes it a bit thicker, which I think protects it as it's rolling through the hinge, you know, constantly getting rolled through the hinge, open and close. It's going to wear things down. So yeah, that black one's slightly thicker. That might be what it's for. I don't know. Don't ask me. I know I'm the YouTuber here, but I don't have all the answers. I'm just a guy. So I'm wrestling everything, trying to get it all in, trying to get everything together. I did take a break halfway through and just stepped outside and took a minute because, yeah, it's real tricky. You got to put all the sliders back in. They only go in a particular way, so you'd know which way when you went to do it. They're kind of, you know, only specific to each side, and then they screw down. Even those speakers are a nightmare because they just want to pop up, and the magnet down the center of the speaker just wants to attach itself to the back of the screen. So we can now slide everything through. Fortunately, this bit is much nicer than taking it all apart. You know, you can just slide it through that little slot, push it all in. It's quite satisfying. And then you can bend the other end of the shell over that hinge, which you can see me doing here. There we go. That's the one. Slots in. And then you open it all the way. And then you can grab some tweezers and push that little hinge down. And there we have it. And you know you've done it right because it makes all those snap noises when you open and close it. Okay, let's pop the top of the shell on. So again, it's kind of a wrestling down job. You've got to make sure that all of those little tabs are sliding in properly. Check all the way around and make sure it's all closed before screwing in any screws, because then you're just going to apply pressure to something and probably break it. So the screws are going back in. And now we can start attaching ribbons. So this is just a horrible job. You know, you've got to be really careful doing this and not put any pressure on things, you know, because if you do, you might break something, or even pushing a connector down wrong could break it. And then on top of that, I've got the 3D capture mod in here as well to consider. So there's all these additional sort of ribbon cables flying around. But once I'd got them in situ up in that top corner, just those two on the underside, I could put a screw down, and that makes things slightly easier to attach the rest of them. But it really, there's one of those spring-loaded connectors I'm talking about. See how it just sort of pops in? This is a different one which has the flap that we're more familiar with. that locks it into place. Much prefer that design to some sort of a pressure fit thing, especially because it's likely you're going to have to put these in and out a few times, because getting it right the first time just seems like a bit of a miracle. But yeah, this is the 3D capture board from Loopy going on just there. And then there's the audio ribbon, which gets connected separately at the base. Slides in, nice sturdy connector on that, which is quite good. That's the antenna wire. A little bit of extra slack on there, but I was able to tuck it round a little bit. That's the microphone. In it goes. Nice little rubber cover. And then you've got the joystick, which slides in. Lovely design. Absolutely love that design, because you could replace it so easily. You just pop the back off, undo that, flip it over, and then pop the new one in. Flip it, flop it, screw it, flap it, pop it. That fell out. See, that's what I'm talking about. It's not good. Right, this is the board on the far left-hand side if the DS is face down. This deals with the power. We actually replaced this. Joey replaced it. My friend Joey looked at this DS because it wasn't getting any power before I looked at it. Turns out it was just this board. So I'll leave his video as well in the description if you want to check that out. But yeah, this board goes in and deals with the power and the buttons. Again, a lovely design. If something happens, you know, power related, then you can just replace that board and hopefully solve that problem. Right, so I put the shoulder button connectors back on, put the back on, chuck a battery in, and moment of truth. Here we go. So the top screen that we just replaced is not looking good. Not looking good at all. Let's cut back to live, Elliot. What the fuck? You must be joking. So yeah, obviously not the result I was looking for. Very upset because it means I have to do it again. I didn't want to waste this whole video, so I'm going to be obviously showing you this video anyway, and then I'm just going to do another one because this is not how it ends. I'm going to get this thing finished and it is going to be perfect. I want to replace the red shoulder buttons anyway, and I need to, yeah, there's obviously a few more bits that I need to do, like those little rubber covers and whatnot. Also, I'm not overly pleased with the quality of this shell replacement. I might try and find on a Japanese auction or something a faulty new 3DS XL, which maybe has like some problem with the motherboard, so I can take the motherboard out from this. Maybe even the top screen's okay, but that feels like a bit of a cop-out. I kind of want to buy a replacement screen that's going to be okay and put it in this so that I can say that I've finished it. I just want this to work, and I've put so much time into this now, and it's really frustrating because the last one was fine. It just had that black leaked pixel thing. And do you know what's really annoying as well? It's like the 3D, there was a bit of an issue with the 3D with the last screen. That was another fault of it, which is brilliant. And this one, the 3D works. Even though the screen is going absolutely crazy, it goes crazy in 3D. It's a strange experience. It is a strange experience. I feel like I'm in an episode of Black Mirror and I'm being brainwashed or something. I'm really gutted, and I'm sorry this video didn't have quite the outcome we were all hoping for. But I'm gonna persist. I'm gonna carry on. Again, thank you to iFixit for sponsoring this video, and check out the auction in the description below. If you want me to sign the shell for whatever reason, I'm more than happy to do that too. But yeah, I've had those pieces lying around. I didn't know what to do with them, and what better way to find a new home for them than to give the proceeds away to a good cause. So thanks very much for watching this video. I will catch you very soon. Goodbye.